the Lieutenant Governor of Pondicherry, Mrs. Kiran Bedi, the Honorable Consul General of France in Pondicherry, Mrs. Catherine Ward, the distinguished and generous donors to the Lycée Education Council Trust, Mr. Ramesh Agarwal of APML and Mr. Shekhar of the Kula, the dynamic provisor of the Lycee Francais De Pondichery, Mr. Sivan Madrias, respective administrative officers and faculty of the Lycée, respected parents, distinguished invitees, dear students, ladies and gentlemen. I am indeed honored and privileged to be present today at this event, which is captioned Journey to a Better Future. Actually, in my view, today's journey is really kick-started by two persons. One, a French citizen, Mr. Stéphane Madrias, the provisor of the Lycée, and another, also a French citizen, but of Indian and more precisely of Pondicherry origin, Mr. Vijay Kumar, an ex-student of this Lycée. The provisor, Mr. Madrias, when he took over the Lycée some time back, was determined to transform the Lycée as it was unfortunately losing appeal and thereby facing a steady decline in the number of students on its rolls. In my personal view, there were several reasons for this loss of appeal. Firstly, the student attrition was due to a lack of scholarships for the Indian students. Secondly, the Lycée was unable to keep up with the increasingly better facilities at many international schools in India due to financial constraints, in part because of the very decline in the number of students. Furthermore, with focus on French language and perhaps inadequate attention to English, it made it difficult for Indian students to join the school. Again, there was not large enough scheme for Indians for pursuing higher studies in France after finishing schooling at the Lycée. And finally, to make matters worse, there was no linkage between education at the Lycée and employment opportunities in India or in France. It was in this context and the personal dynamism and determination of Mr. Madrias and Mr. Vijay Kumar that two brilliant but complementary ideas were born. First, of transforming the Lycée, and second, of repositioning it in the modern context with the help of an educational trust that could supplement the resources of the Lycée through corporate social responsibility or CSR funding the Lycée by interested Indian and French companies. Therefore, what was needed was to obtain a trust that had the same educational objective as the one which we desired. However, as per Indian laws, a trust must have at least 3 years of existence and operation before it becomes eligible to obtain donations and contributions from Indian companies registered under the Indian Companies Act under CSR provision of the government. A diligent search by Mr. Kumar and his associates helped us to identify one, namely the Kannan Valley Educational Trust, set up in 1993 set up in 1993 and operated by the philanthropic family of Mr. P.K. Joseph in Chennai. Thanks to efforts and aided by our high objectives, which went beyond mere educational ones, to include employment opportunities as well as people-to-people contact and cooperation at the bilateral levels. We were fortunate in being able to convince that gracious founders, the Joseph family, and the relevant Indian authorities to transfer the trust to us expeditiously under the new name Lycée Francais Educational Trust, LFET, of which you will hear more. The Lycée Francais Education Trust was registered in April 2018. It has a bank account in an Indian public sector bank and a PAN card, and it meets all the statutory requirements under the Indian law. This is an achievement whose importance cannot be denied and must be applauded. Thank you. What makes this achievement even more significant is that besides the recent decision to introduce English at the primary school level itself, it fits in very well within the framework and the new direction that is taking place in Indo-French relations. The recent state visit to India of the Honorable President of the French Republic, His Excellency Mr. Emmanuel Macron, has built upon the already strong foundations of excellent bilateral relations between India and France. The signing of several major agreements in Delhi during the visit would further strengthen the close cooperation and also give a boost to people-to-people contacts. What is of great importance for the Lycée is the mutual recognition of academic qualifications as well as several MOUs signed between the leading French institutions and research centers and their Indian counterparts. Indeed, President Macron had told an audience of Indian students in New Delhi, and I quote, "Many young Indian researchers who go abroad do not go to France. You must go to France. We have excellent universities and excellent research centers in science, social sciences and literature," unquote. Towards this end, the French government has been graciously announcing a target of 10,000 Indian students that France wishes to host for graduate studies by 2020. This is double the current figure and will be a challenge, but I guess we will meet the challenge. In the light of the above background, with strong thrust at the diplomatic level, I thank both the Embassy of India, the Ambassador of France in India, and the Consul General. The Lycée Francais Education Trust would be able to help the Lycée in several important ways. I merely mention a few in view of the time constraints. One, the trust, and this is for the benefit of the parents and others, the trust would be a mechanism to enable companies, Indian and French, to offer their contributions to the Lycée within the framework of the obligatory CSR donation. Significantly, this would enable them at different levels to contribute to and take part in promoting Indo-French bilateral economic relations. B, such CSR contribution trust would enable it, first and foremost, to help the Lycée to offer scholarships to Indian students. And further, of course, help improve and expand its infrastructure as well as in the field of education, sports and boarding facilities. See, the bilateral accords in the education sector that was signed recently between our two countries, combined with the association made possible by the trust, would now enable the Lycée to reposition its academic role in terms of not only the school education, but also respond to the requirements of its future partners, the universities and companies, whether Indian or French, that wish to use this Lycée's unique training facilities for English and French and cross-cultural training. This would help strongly encourage partnership between Indian and French companies and promote professional mobility that is under focus to meet the 2020 targets set by our two governments at the highest levels. Above all, for the students and the parents, all these activities will facilitate employment placements of the Lycée students in Indian and French corporate sectors, whether in India, France or even the rest of the world, and thereby provide a transforming impact on their respective journeys to a better future. Undoubtedly, all this will help promote people-to-people contacts that our leaders on both sides so strongly desire. In conclusion, the success of this initiative will be a journey to a better future at three different levels. Of course, for the students and the parents, for the Lycée and the Indian and French companies, and for Indo-French relations. Evidently, it will benefit the students and the parents in terms of scholarships, educational facilities, opportunities for higher studies, and employment. Similarly, the Lycée would be enabled to successfully reposition itself against the background of its impressive nearly 2 centuries of history and be financially sound with a strong and unique brand. The companies too would benefit not only from being able to have socially significant programs for the CSR activities, but also being able to avail of training resources provided by the Lycée and also have access to brilliant future employees of the school. Finally, with knowledge and therefore education being the most important driver today of modern economy, it will help boost Indo-French cooperation all around by permitting the trust and the Lycée to play their due roles, however small, but still useful, in the new climate of strong cooperation in the education sector between our two countries and peoples that has been created by the recent Indo-French summit. These activities will be entirely in keeping with and support for the declaration by President Macron that, quote, France must be India's best partner and port of entry into Europe. Dear distinguished guests, The journey to a better future has begun. Thank you.